The moment Ariana Greco's phone slipped from her trembling hands and the message status changed to delivered, she knew her life would never be the same. The photograph, meant for no one, taken in a moment of reckless confidence after wine and heartbreak, had just landed in the inbox of the most dangerous man in the city. Don Rafael Santini didn't forgive mistakes. He collected debts. And now, somehow, she owed him something she couldn't name, but could already feel wrapping around her throat like silk. Please like, share, and subscribe. Ariana stared at her phone's screen, her heart hammering so violently she thought her ribs might crack. The wine glass sat forgotten on her nightstand, condensation pooling beneath it like her dissolving composure. She'd meant to send the photo to her best friend Maya as a joke. A look how far I've come since the breakup moment of defiance. Instead, her thumb had slipped, scrolled, and selected a contact she'd only saved 3 days ago after a courier delivery went wrong. R. Santini. The name alone made seasoned criminals cross themselves. She'd heard the rumors whispered in her family's restaurant, seen the way her father's face went pale when that name came up in conversation. Rafael Santini owned half the city's legitimate businesses and, allegedly, all of its shadows. He was old money, new power, and absolute control wrapped in custom Italian suits. And she'd just sent him a photograph of herself in black lace and nothing else. Her phone buzzed. She nearly dropped it again. Delete it. Please delete it. I'm so sorry. Wrong person. She typed frantically, her fingers shaking so badly she had to retype twice. The message showed as read almost instantly. Then 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Her bedroom suddenly felt too small, too warm. She grabbed the wine glass and drained it, not tasting anything. The response came through. Don't apologize for being beautiful, Ariana. She stopped breathing. He knew her name. Of course he knew her name. He probably knew everything about her. Her address, her job at the art gallery, her student loans, her favorite coffee order. Men like Rafael Santini didn't receive mystery messages. They investigated. They controlled. Another message followed before she could respond. We'll discuss this tomorrow. 10 a.m. I'll send a car. It wasn't a question. It wasn't even really a command. It was simply the future being decided without her input, and something about that made her entire body flush with a confusing mixture of fear and something else she refused to name. She typed back, I work tomorrow. His response was immediate. Not anymore. Ariana threw her phone onto the bed and pressed her palms against her eyes. This couldn't be happening. She'd survived her ex-boyfriend's betrayal, her mother's disappointment, her own crushing self-doubt. She'd finally started putting herself back together. And now she'd accidentally involved herself with a man who could unravel her completely with a single phone call. Sleep was impossible. She lay awake until dawn painted her ceiling gold, playing out 1,000 scenarios. By the time 9:30 arrived, she'd changed outfits 4 times and settled on something that said, I'm taking this seriously, without saying, I'm trying to impress you. A simple black dress, modest but well-fitted, paired with the only designer heels she owned. The car arrived at 9:50. Ariana watched from her window as a sleek black Mercedes pulled up, chrome gleaming like a threat. The driver stepped out, tall, professional, wearing an earpiece. He opened the rear door and waited. Her hands trembled as she locked her apartment. Her heels clicked against the stairs like a countdown. The morning air tasted like autumn and poor decisions. Ms. Greco. The driver nodded, his face carefully neutral. Don Santini is expecting you. She slid into the leather interior, and the door closed with the finality of a vault ceiling. The car smelled like expensive cologne and power. They drove through the city in silence, moving from her modest neighborhood into streets where buildings wore their wealth like armor. They stopped in front of a hotel that didn't advertise. The kind of place where presidents stayed and scandals went to die. Penthouse, the driver said, handing her a key card. Private elevator. He's waiting. Ariana's legs felt disconnected from her body as she crossed the marble lobby. A concierge nodded as if he'd been expecting her. The elevator rose so smoothly she barely felt the movement, just the growing pressure in her chest. The doors opened directly into the penthouse suite. And there he was. Rafael Santini stood with his back to her, framed by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city he ruled. He wore dark slacks and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms that belonged in Renaissance paintings. His black hair was perfectly styled, touched with silver at the temples. When he turned, his face was everything the rumors promised, Sharp jaw, Mediterranean features, eyes so dark they looked black in certain light. Ariana. Her name in his voice was entirely different than it had ever sounded before. Thank you for coming. As if she'd had a choice. Mr. Santini, I. Raphael. He moved toward her, not quickly, but with the confidence of a man who'd never been refused. We're past formalities now, don't you think? Heat crawled up her neck. About the photo, coffee? He gestured to a service cart that probably cost more than her monthly rent. You take it black, no sugar. Like your soul, according to your best friend Maya. Her stomach dropped. You've been researching. He poured 2 cups with steady hands. I research everyone who enters my orbit, Ariana. It's how I stay alive. You, however, entered quite memorably. He handed her the coffee. Their fingers didn't touch, but she felt the near contact like electricity. I made a mistake, she said, forcing her voice steady. It was meant for my friend. I would never intentionally. I know. He sipped his coffee, watching her over the rim with eyes that seemed to catalog every breath she took. Your phone history shows you scrolling quickly. Your message logs indicate it was an accident. I had it verified within 20 minutes of receiving it. Then why am I here? Something flickered across his face. Not quite a smile. Not quite danger. Something in between that made her pulse skip. Because I can't stop thinking about you. The honesty of it hit harder than any threat could have. Ariana stared at him, coffee cup frozen halfway to her lips. Men like Raphael Santini didn't confess. They commanded. They took. They didn't stand in penthouse suites admitting to vulnerability. You don't even know me, she whispered. I know you graduated top of your class with an art history degree and 30,000 in debt. I know you work 60 hours a week at a gallery that underpays you. I know your father owns Greco's on 5th, and you waitress there on weekends even though he tells you not to. I know your ex-boyfriend cheated with your roommate 6 months ago, and you moved into that apartment alone rather than go back to your parents. He paused. I know you take your coffee black because your mother always told you sweet things make weak women. And I know you sent that photo as an act of reclamation, not seduction. Ariana's coffee cup rattled against its saucer as she set it down. That's not knowing me. That's a dossier. You're right. He stepped closer, and she caught his scent, cedar and something darker, something that made her want to close her eyes and breathe deeper. So let me know you. Have dinner with me. Tonight. I can't. Tomorrow then. Mr. Santini. Raphael. This is insane. She backed up a step, needing distance, needing to think. You're you. I'm nobody. This doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. His voice dropped lower, intimate despite the vast room. From the moment I saw that photo, I knew. Not because of what you were wearing, though believe me, Ariana, that image is burned into my memory, but because of your eyes. You were looking at yourself in that mirror with such determined confidence, such beautiful defiance. You were choosing yourself. And I've spent my entire life surrounded by people who would sell themselves for a fraction of my attention. But you? You didn't even know you were giving me yours. Her throat felt tight. This is too much. Too fast. I know. He didn't move closer, but his presence seemed to expand, filling the space. I'm not asking for forever today. I'm asking for dinner. One evening. You choose the restaurant. You set the boundaries. If after that you want to walk away, I'll respect it. Lies, whispered a voice in her head. Men like him don't let go. But another part of her, the part that had taken that photo in the first place, wanted to say yes. Wanted to see what it felt like to be looked at the way Raphael Santini was looking at her now. Like she was art he intended to study for the rest of his life. One dinner, she heard herself say. Somewhere public. Anywhere you want. And if I say no afterward, you'll actually leave me alone? Something painful crossed his features. Gone so quickly she might have imagined it. If you genuinely want me gone, I'll disappear from your life completely. You have my word. The word of she stopped herself. Of a criminal? He smiled, and it was sharper than she expected. I prefer businessman, but I understand the distinction matters to you. My word, Ariana, is the only thing I've never broken. Not for profit. Not for power. Not even to save my own life. So when I give it to you, I mean it absolutely. She believed him. God help her, she believed him. Tomorrow night, she said. 7 p.m. Lucia's on Morrison Street. I'll pick you up at 6:30. I'll meet you there. Ariana. Those are my terms. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. As you wish. I'll have a table reserved. She turned toward the elevator before she could change her mind, before the intensity in his eyes could strip away what remained of her common sense. Ariana. His voice stopped her at the threshold. That photo. I deleted it immediately. She looked back at him, surprise evident on her face. It was never mine to keep, he said quietly. You are not a thing to be possessed. You're a choice to be earned. The elevator doors closed on his words, and Ariana sagged against the wall as she descended. Her reflection in the polished doors showed flushed cheeks and bright eyes. The look of a woman walking into disaster with her eyes wide open. Her phone buzzed. A message from Maya. Where are you? You missed our coffee date. Ariana stared at the screen, then typed. You won't believe what just happened. But even as she sent it, she knew no explanation would make sense. How could she explain that a misdirected photo had just rewritten her entire future? That a man she should fear had just offered her something she'd been craving without knowing it, absolute, unwavering attention from someone powerful enough to keep his promises. The car delivered her back to her apartment. The driver handed her a small card before she stepped out. Heavy stock, embossed lettering. Just a phone number. Nothing else. In case you need anything, he said. Don Santini's orders. She pocketed the card and climbed the stairs to her apartment in a daze. Inside, she pulled out her phone and stared at Raphael's messages. His words were still there, permanent proof this morning had been real. One dinner. That's all it was. One dinner with the most dangerous man in the city, in a public restaurant, with the freedom to walk away afterward. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, whispered her common sense. Everything, echoed her racing heart, but for entirely different reasons. Later that night, Ariana stood in front of her closet wearing old pajamas and drinking cheap wine straight from the bottle. Every dress she owned suddenly felt wrong. Too casual, too desperate, too everything. She grabbed her phone to text Maya for help, then stopped. Maya would tell her not to go. Maya would list all the reasons this was dangerous and stupid and reckless. Maya would be absolutely right. Ariana put the phone down and pulled out a deep emerald dress she'd bought on sale and never had an occasion to wear. She held it against herself in the mirror. The color made her olive skin glow and her dark eyes look almost mysterious. The cut was elegant but not revealing, sophisticated without trying too hard. Perfect. She hung it on her door and tried to convince herself she was just being practical. But when she lay in bed that night, she didn't think about the danger. She thought about the way Raphael had said her name. The way he'd looked at her like she was already his, but had still given her the power to walk away. The way his honesty had felt more dangerous than any threat. Morning came too slowly and too quickly. Ariana went through her day at the gallery in a fog, rearranging paintings she'd organized yesterday and forgetting clients' names mid-conversation. Her boss, Helena, noticed. You're distracted. I'm fine. You've been staring at that Caravaggio for 20 minutes. Either you're having an artistic crisis or a personal one. Ariana forced a smile. Just didn't sleep well. Helena's shrewd eyes narrowed. Does this have anything to do with the ridiculously expensive flowers that were delivered here this morning with your name on them? What flowers? Helena led her to the back office. On her desk sat an arrangement that belonged in a magazine. Deep red roses mixed with white orchids, elegant and dramatic, and probably costing more than her weekly paycheck. The card was simple. Looking forward to tonight. R. Helena's eyebrows rose. Please tell me you're not dating a married man. He's not married. But there is a he. Helena crossed her arms. Spill. It's just dinner. Probably nothing. Ariana. Those flowers are not probably nothing. Those flowers are I want to own your soul. Who is he? No one you'd know. Try me. I know everyone in this city's art world. Ariana picked up the card, running her thumb over the embossed R. She couldn't tell Helena the truth. Helena was connected, well-informed, exactly the kind of person who would recognize Raphael Santini's name and forcibly lock Ariana in the gallery for her own protection. Someone I met recently, she said finally. It's new. I'm not even sure it's anything yet. Helena studied her for a long moment. Be careful, honey. Flowers this expensive usually come with expectations. I can handle it. Can you? The question followed Ariana home. Could she handle Raphael Santini? Could anyone? She showered and dressed with mechanical precision, applying makeup with a steadier hand than she felt. The emerald dress fit perfectly. Her heels added 3 inches and a confidence she only half felt. At 6:45, she stood outside Lucia's restaurant, Early because arriving late felt like losing control she desperately needed to maintain. The evening air was cool, carrying the scent of rain that hadn't fallen yet. A black car pulled up at 6:50. Not the Mercedes from yesterday. This was something lower profile, less obvious. But when Raphael stepped out, there was nothing subtle about the way he moved or the way every head turned. He wore a charcoal suit that had been tailored by someone who understood the male form as sacred geometry. His dark eyes found her immediately, and the smile that touched his lips was small but genuine. Not the practiced expression of a man used to performing, but something real slipping through his control. "Ariana." He approached slowly, giving her time to back away if she wanted. "You look stunning. Thank you for the flowers. Thank you for wearing green. It's devastating on you." Heat crept up her neck. "Shall we?" He offered his arm. She hesitated only a moment before taking it, and the contact felt significant, her hand on his sleeve, his warmth bleeding through expensive fabric. He led her inside, and the maitre d' recognized him immediately. "Don Santini, your table is ready." They were seated in a corner booth that offered privacy without isolation. Ariana noticed the two men seated separately at the bar. Raphael's security, she assumed, trying to be discreet. The restaurant was elegant but not ostentatious. Exactly the kind of place she'd chosen to feel like she had some control over this situation. Raphael ordered wine without looking at the menu, something Italian and probably older than she was. When the waiter left, he leaned back and studied her with unsettling intensity. "You're afraid of me." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "Should I be?" "No, but I understand why you are." He paused as the wine arrived, waited for her to taste and approve before continuing. "My reputation precedes me. Most of what you've heard is probably true. I'm not a good man by conventional standards, Ariana. I've done things that would horrify you. Built an empire on foundations that wouldn't survive daylight. Then why am I here? Because despite everything I am, everything I've done, I want to be someone different with you." His voice dropped lower, intimate. "I want to be the man who makes you smile, who keeps you safe, who earns the right to stand beside you. You can't just decide to be someone else." "Can I?" He leaned forward. "I've spent my entire life being what circumstances demanded. Cold when I needed to intimidate. Ruthless when I needed to survive. Calculating when I needed to win. But with you, I want to be honest. Present. Real. Why me? Because you're the first person in 20 years who's looked at me and seen a man instead of a monster or a meal ticket." His jaw tightened. "Because when you walked into that penthouse yesterday, you were terrified but you didn't beg. Didn't try to seduce your way out of what you thought was trouble. You stood there in your modest dress and your fierce eyes and demanded to be treated with dignity. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my world?" Ariana's wine glass trembled slightly as she set it down. "You're romanticizing a misunderstanding." "Am I?" His hand moved across the table, stopping just short of touching hers. Close enough to feel his heat. "Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me you didn't think about me last night. Tell me you wore that dress for anyone but me." She couldn't. All three would have been lies. "What do you want from me, Raphael?" "Everything." The word was simple, absolute. "But I'll take whatever you're willing to give. One dinner. One conversation. One chance to prove I'm worth the risk." The waiter arrived to take their order, and the moment fractured. Ariana ordered pasta she wouldn't taste, her mind spinning with impossible thoughts. Across from her, Raphael spoke with the waiter in fluid Italian, his voice taking on a different quality, warmer, more relaxed. When the waiter left, he caught her staring. "You speak Italian?" she asked. "Born in Napoli. Moved here when I was 12. "Why?" His expression shuddered slightly. "That's a second date story. This isn't even a real first date. Isn't it?" He smiled. "You're here. I'm here. We're learning about each other. Seems like a date to me. Dates don't usually involve background checks and security details. Mine do." He said it lightly, but there was warning underneath. "This is my reality, Ariana. I can't change it. Can't escape it. The best I can do is try to keep it from touching you. What if I don't want to be kept separate? What if I want to understand all of you?" The question surprised them both. Raphael's eyes widened almost imperceptibly, and when he spoke again, his voice was rougher. "Don't say things like that unless you mean them. My world isn't something you browse and exit. Once you're in, once you really see it." He stopped. "I don't want that for you. You don't get to decide what I can handle." "No," he agreed quietly. "But I get to try to protect you from finding out the hard way." Their food arrived, and they ate in charged silence. Ariana noticed the way Raphael's eyes tracked every person who entered the restaurant, the way his body stayed relaxed but ready. This was a man who'd survived by being constantly aware, constantly alert. She wondered what it cost him, that vigilance. What it felt like to never truly rest. "Tell me about the gallery," he said, clearly trying to steer toward safer ground. "Helena mentioned you're working on a new exhibition." "How do you know Helena?" His smile was slight. "I know everyone who matters in this city." "She matters? You work for her." "That makes her matter to me." The possessiveness in his tone should have annoyed her. Instead, it sent warmth pooling in her stomach. She talked about the gallery, about the artists she'd discovered and the exhibition she was planning. Raphael listened with genuine interest, asking intelligent questions, making observations that proved he understood art beyond investment value. "You really care about this," he said, watching her face light up as she described a new sculptor's work. "It's the only thing that's ever been completely mine." She paused, surprised by her own honesty. "Everything else in my life has been influenced by someone else's expectations. My parents. My ex-society. But art, that's where I get to decide what matters." "Tell me about your ex." The shift made her tense. "That's not first date conversation. You're the one who said this wasn't a real date." His eyes held challenge and something softer. "I want to know what idiot was stupid enough to lose you." "It's not interesting." "Standard story." "He cheated." "I left." "But you didn't just leave him. You left your entire life. Moved out. Cut ties with mutual friends. You rebuilt from nothing rather than compromise. You really did do a thorough background check. I wanted to understand you." He reached across the table, and this time his fingers brushed hers. "Just barely. Just enough. I wanted to know what shaped you into someone strong enough to send that photo. Strong enough to walk away from security because it came with betrayal." His touch felt like a brand. Ariana's breath caught, and she saw the moment he noticed. The slight widening of his pupils, the way his jaw tightened. "Ariana." Her name was a warning and a prayer. "If you're going to tell me to stop, do it now. Because I'm already in too deep, and I need to know if you're going to break my heart before I hand it to you completely. You don't know me well enough for me to break your heart. Don't I?" His thumb traced a small circle on her palm. "I know you drink your coffee black because you're afraid of being seen as weak. I know you work extra shifts to avoid your empty apartment. I know you chose this restaurant because it's public enough to feel safe, but nice enough to prove you respect yourself. I know you're wearing that dress because green is your armor, bold enough to feel confident, elegant enough to maintain distance. And I know that right now your pulse is racing because you feel this thing between us just as strongly as I do." She should pull her hand away. Should end this before it went further. Should remember all the reasons this man was dangerous. Instead, she turned her palm up and let his fingers lace with hers. "This is insane," she whispered. "Yes. You're going to ruin my life." "No." His grip tightened. "I'm going to protect it with everything I have." "That's not a promise you can keep. Watch me." The intensity in his eyes backed up every word. This wasn't a man making empty promises to get what he wanted. This was a man stating facts about his own future, claiming her as if the decision had already been made by forces beyond their control. And maybe it had. They finished dinner in a haze of lingering touches and loaded silences. When the check came, Raphael didn't let her see it. When they stepped outside, the rain that had threatened all evening finally began to fall. Light drops that caught in her hair and made the streetlights blur. "Let me drive you home," he said. "I can take a cab." "Ariana." He stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Rain dotted his shoulders, clung to his dark lashes. "Let me take you home. Let me know you're safe. And then, if you want, I'll walk away and wait for you to call me." "What if I don't call?" Pain flickered across his features, sharp and quickly hidden. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what I did wrong, and trying to deserve you from a distance." The vulnerability in those words shattered something in her chest. This powerful, dangerous man was handing her every weapon she needed to hurt him, trusting her not to use them. It was the most seductive thing she'd ever experienced. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Take me home." His smile could have lit the dark street. He opened the car door himself, waited until she was settled before closing it with careful precision. The drive to her apartment was quiet, rain drumming on the roof, city lights streaming past like possibilities. His hand found hers in the darkness, and she let him keep it. When they pulled up outside her building, Raphael walked her to the door despite the rain. At the threshold, he stopped, rain-soaked and devastating in the dim light. "Thank you for tonight. Thank you for the flowers. And for," she gestured vaguely, encompassing everything, "for making this less terrifying than it should be. It should terrify you. I terrify me." He lifted his free hand, hesitated, then brushed wet hair back from her face with such gentleness it made her throat ache. "But I swear on everything I have, I will never let that fear be justified. You will always be safe with me." "Raphael," he leaned down slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. His lips brushed her forehead, feather-light, reverent. Not the kiss she'd expected. Something more intimate. "Sleep well, Ariana. Dream of me." Then he was gone, back to the car, leaving her standing in the rain with her heart pounding and her carefully constructed walls crumbling around her feet. Inside her apartment, she stripped out of her wet dress and stood in front of the mirror. The same mirror from the photo that had started this. But the woman looking back was different now, flushed and bright-eyed, wearing the expression of someone who'd just realized she was falling and couldn't find anything to grab onto. Her phone buzzed. A message from Raphael. "I'm already counting the hours until I see you again." She should be smart. Should tell him this was moving too fast, that she needed space, that her answer to tonight was a polite but firm no. Instead, she typed, "Tomorrow. If you're free." His response came immediately. "I'll cancel everything." Ariana pressed the phone to her chest and closed her eyes. She was in trouble. The kind of trouble that felt like flying and drowning at the same time. The kind of trouble that would either destroy her or transform her into someone she'd never imagined being. The kind of trouble that tasted like rain and promises, and the most dangerous thing of all. Hope that someone powerful would choose to be gentle just for her. Outside, thunder rolled across the city. Inside, Ariana Greco stood at the precipice of everything she'd sworn to avoid and took the first step into free fall. Because sometimes the scariest thing wasn't falling. It was wanting to. Raphael Santini had conquered cities, negotiated with cartels, and built an empire from blood and calculated risks. None of it had prepared him for the terror of waiting for Ariana Greco to change her mind. He stood in his private office at dawn, sleepless, staring at their text exchange like a teenager with his first crush. The rain had stopped, leaving the city washed clean and gleaming. Somewhere out there, she was waking up. Regretting last night, probably. Realizing what she'd agreed to. Preparing to send the message that would gut him. His phone rang. Marco, his head of security. "We have a situation." Raphael's jaw tightened. "What kind?" "Luca Moretti was seen outside Ms. Greco's building last night. After you left." Ice flooded his veins. Luca Moretti, his rival, his enemy, the one man in this city who would do anything to hurt Raphael. And now he'd been circling Ariana. How long was he there? 20 minutes. Just watching. He left when her lights went out. Raphael's free hand clenched into a fist. He'd known this was a risk. Known that anything he cared about became a target. But he'd thought he had more time before his world discovered her. Before the danger found her doorstep. Double her security. "I want eyes on her building 24/7. But discreet, she can't know. Boss, if Moretti's already noticed her, then I'll handle Moretti." Raphael's voice went cold, dropping into the register that made grown men flinch. But Ariana stays untouched. Non-negotiable. He ended the call and immediately texted her. "Good morning. How do you feel about lunch instead of dinner? There's something I need to tell you." He had to warn her. Had to give her the truth before she was in too deep to escape. Even if it meant losing her. Even if honesty destroyed the fragile thing growing between them. Her response came 10 minutes later. "Lunch works. But I picked the place again." Despite everything, he smiled. Ariana chose a cafe near the gallery. Small, busy. The kind of place where their conversation would be swallowed by ambient noise. She arrived early, needing the control of claiming a table, of being seated when he arrived instead of waiting to be found. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt his hand in hers, his lips on her forehead, the way he'd looked at her like she was precious. Dangerous thoughts for a dangerous man. Maya had called that morning, demanding details about the mysterious date. Ariana had deflected, promising to explain later. How could she explain something she didn't understand herself? That a man she should fear made her feel safer than anyone ever had? That his intensity didn't scare her? It called to something equally intense she'd spent her whole life suppressing? Raphael arrived exactly on time, wearing jeans and a black sweater that somehow made him look more dangerous than the suits. More real. More touchable. He spotted her immediately, and the relief in his expression was unmistakable. "Hi." He slid into the seat across from her, and his knee brushed hers under the small table. "Hi yourself." She studied his face, noting the shadows under his eyes. "You look like you didn't sleep." "I didn't." He ordered coffee from the passing waitress without breaking eye contact. "I spent the night trying to figure out how to tell you something that might make you leave." Her stomach dropped. "You're married?" "No." He reached across the table, and she let him take her hand. "Nothing like that. But there's something you need to know about my world. About what being near me means." Ariana's fingers tightened on his. "I already know what you are, Raphael. You know the rumors. The surface. You don't know what it actually means." He paused as the coffee arrived, waited until they were alone again. "I have enemies, Ariana. Real ones. Men who would hurt you just to hurt me. And last night, one of them was outside your building." The words landed like stones in still water, rippling outward into implications she'd been avoiding. "What?" "Luca Moretti. We have history. Bad history. And he has a habit of targeting things I care about." Raphael's jaw tightened. "I've already increased security around you. You won't see them, but they're there. Protecting you. You can't just assign me security without asking." "I can, and I did." His tone brooked no argument. "Your safety isn't negotiable, Ariana. Not now. Not ever." She should be angry. Should be insulted by the high-handed decision. Instead, a different emotion entirely flooded through her, something warm and fierce and terrifying in its intensity. "This is what you meant last night," she said slowly. "About your world not being something I can browse and exit." "Yes." His thumb stroked over her knuckles. "I'm giving you an out here. Right now. Walk away, and I'll make sure Moretti knows you mean nothing to me. I'll protect you from a distance until the threat passes. You'll be safe, and you'll be free. And if I don't walk away?" His eyes went dark. "Then you're mine, and everyone will know it. You'll have my protection, my resources, everything I own. But you'll also have my enemies. My complications. My darkness. You're trying to scare me away. I'm trying to be honest." His voice roughened. "Because I'm selfish enough to want you anyway. Even knowing what it costs. Even knowing I should let you go." Ariana stared at their joined hands. This was the moment. The clean break. The smart choice. She could stand up, walk away, return to her safe, predictable life. Find a nice, normal man who wouldn't come with death threats and security details. But she'd tried safe. Tried normal. Her ex had been respectable, appropriate, exactly the kind of man her mother approved of. And he'd still betrayed her. Still made her feel small and disposable and insufficient. Raphael made her feel seen. Claimed. Worth protecting. "I'm not walking away," she heard herself say. His grip on her hand tightened almost painfully. "Ariana." "I'm terrified," she interrupted. "And this is probably the stupidest decision I've ever made. But I'm not walking away from you, Raphael. Not yet." The emotion that crossed his face was too complex to name. Relief and fear and something burning underneath that made her pulse skip. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles with devastating gentleness. "Then you need to understand the rules. You don't go anywhere alone. You tell me where you are. You let my people keep you safe. That's not a relationship. That's a prison. That's survival." His eyes held hers, unflinching. "I will give you everything, Ariana. My time, my attention, my absolute loyalty. But I need to know you're safe. I need to know Moretti can't touch you. That's non-negotiable." She should argue. Should demand her independence. But the intensity in his gaze told her this was about more than control. This was about a man who'd lost things before, who knew exactly what his enemies were capable of. "Okay," she said quietly. "But I need something from you too. Anything. Honesty. Complete honesty. No more dossiers and research. If you want to know something about me, ask. And in return, you tell me the truth about your world. No sanitized versions. No protection from reality." He studied her for a long moment. "You might not like what you learn. Then I'll deal with it. But I won't be kept in the dark while you make decisions about my life." Something like respect flickered in his expression. "Deal. Ask me anything. Who's Luca Moretti and why does he hate you?" Raphael's expression hardened. "We used to be partners. Brothers, almost. Then he betrayed the family, tried to take over the territory. It ended badly. He lost everything, power, respect, the woman he loved. He blames me. Did you take the woman he loved? No, but I killed her brother when he came after my people. He said it flatly, watching for her reaction. It was him or us. I chose us. Ariana's coffee sat forgotten as she processed this. The violence wasn't abstract anymore. Wasn't rumor. It was real, sitting across from her, holding her hand with fingers that had pulled triggers. Are you sorry? For protecting my family? No. He leaned forward. I won't lie to you, Ariana. I'm not a good man. I've done terrible things. Things that keep me awake at night. But I've never killed anyone who didn't come for me first. And I've never hurt anyone who didn't choose that life. Until me. You're not in that life. You're separate. Sacred. His intensity burned. Everything I've built, everything I've done, it stays away from you. You get the man, not the monster. What if they're the same person? Then you'll have to decide if you can love both. The word love hung between them, too big, too soon, too real. Ariana pulled her hand back, needing space to breathe. This is insane. We've known each other 3 days. I know. He didn't try to touch her again. I know it's fast. I know it's overwhelming. But I also know I've never felt like this before. Never wanted to be better for someone. Never been willing to risk everything for the possibility of more. Risk what? Everything. He gestured vaguely. My reputation. My control. My carefully maintained distance from anything that could be used against me. You're a weakness, Ariana. The worst kind. And I'm choosing you anyway. Her breath caught. Raphael. A commotion near the entrance cut her off. Raised voices. The cafe's atmosphere shifted from casual to tense in seconds. Raphael was on his feet instantly, positioning himself between Ariana and the door. A man walked in. Tall, sharp-featured, wearing expensive clothes and a smile that made her skin crawl. 2 men flanked him, muscle, barely concealed weapons. Raphael. The man's voice carried across the cafe. And this must be the famous Ariana. The photo didn't do you justice, Bella. Ice flooded Ariana's veins. Raphael's entire body had gone still, coiled like a snake about to strike. Moretti. Raphael's voice was death. You're not welcome here. It's a public place. Luca Moretti's eyes slid to Ariana, and she felt violated by the look. I just wanted to meet the woman who's captured the great Raphael Santini's attention. See what's so special about her. Walk away. Raphael moved slightly, blocking Moretti's view of her. Now, or what? You'll make a scene in front of your pretty little civilian. Moretti laughed. I'm not here to cause problems, Raphael. Just wanted to introduce myself. Let Ariana know she has options if she gets tired of your particular brand of suffocation. Raphael moved so fast Ariana barely saw it. One moment he was standing between them. The next, his hand was wrapped around Moretti's throat, slamming him against the wall. Customers scattered. Moretti's guards reached for weapons, but froze when Raphael's own security materialized from nowhere, guns trained. You look at her again, you even think about her, and I will end you. Raphael's voice was conversational, terrifying in its calm. Not quick. Not clean. I will take everything you have left and burn it to ashes. Do you understand me? Moretti's face was turning red, but he managed a choked laugh. She's already a target. Just by being yours. Raphael slammed him against the wall again. Then I'll make you an example of what happens when people threaten what's mine. Raphael. Ariana's voice cut through the violence. Let him go. He froze. The sound of his name from her lips seemed to reach him through the rage. Slowly, his hand loosened. Moretti dropped, gasping. This isn't over, Moretti wheezed, backing toward the door. She's in it now. No taking it back. Then he was gone, his guards retreating with him. The cafe remained frozen, shocked. Raphael turned to Ariana, and the man looking at her was different from the one she'd been talking to moments ago. This was the monster. The killer. The thing he'd promised to keep from her. We're leaving. He held out his hand. Now. She took it, letting him guide her out of the cafe and into a waiting car. His security formed a perimeter as they moved, weapons visible now, no longer pretending to be civilians. This was Raphael's world laid bare, violence and power and men with guns. In the car, silence stretched tight. Raphael's jaw was locked, his hands clenched. He looked like he was holding himself together by force of will. Say something, he finally ground out. You could have killed him. I wanted to. But you didn't. Because I asked you not to. He looked at her then, and the anguish in his eyes broke something in her chest. This is what I am, Ariana. This is what you're choosing. Men who want to hurt you just to hurt me. Violence that follows me everywhere. A life where coffee dates end with guns drawn. I know. You should run. I know that too. She reached for his hand, felt it trembling slightly under hers. But I'm not going to. Why? The word was ragged. Why would you stay after seeing that? Because you stopped when I asked. Because you're shaking right now trying to control yourself instead of going after him. Because you're more scared of losing me than you are of him. She moved closer, cupped his face with her free hand. Because I see the man, Raphael. Not just the monster. He closed his eyes, leaning into her touch like a man finding salvation. I don't deserve you. Probably not. She smiled slightly. But I'm choosing you anyway. All of you. The kiss happened without decision. One moment they were staring at each other. The next his mouth was on hers, desperate and fierce and achingly gentle all at once. His hand fisted in her hair, angling her head to deepen the kiss. She gasped against his lips, and he swallowed the sound, claiming it, claiming her. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, the world had shifted. No more pretending this was casual. No more testing waters. This was diving into the deep end and hoping they'd both learn to swim. Come home with me, Raphael breathed against her lips. Let me keep you safe. Let me show you everything I am and pray you still stay. Okay. His penthouse was different in daylight. Vast windows showcased the city like a kingdom, all glass and steel and power made tangible. Ariana stood in the center of the living room, feeling small and significant all at once. Raphael shed his jacket, poured them both whiskey despite the early hour. His hands were steady now, but tension still rode his shoulders. I need to make some calls, he said. Increase security. Make sure Moretti knows there are consequences for today. Will you hurt him? I'll destroy his remaining operations. Take his income streams. Make him irrelevant. He paused. Unless you want me to do more. No. She accepted the whiskey, sipped the burning liquid. I don't want you to become more of what you hate because of me. Something in his expression softened. You're trying to save my soul. I'm trying to save the parts of it you haven't lost yet. He crossed to her, cupped her face with both hands. What if it's already gone? What if I'm too far into the darkness? Then I'll be your light. She set down her glass, wrapped her hands around his wrists. You keep me safe from your world. I'll keep you safe from yourself. The kiss this time was slower, deeper, a promise being made without words. His hands slid into her hair, tilting her head back as he explored her mouth like he was memorizing every detail. She melted into him, feeling the hard lines of his body against hers, the controlled strength in every touch. Ariana. Her name was a prayer and a curse. If we do this, there's no going back. I'll never let you go. Good. She pulled him closer, feeling bold, feeling claimed. Because I'm not going anywhere. He lifted her, carried her through the penthouse to a bedroom that was all masculine elegance and dark luxury. Laid her on sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Looked down at her with eyes that held worship and possession in equal measure. Tell me you're sure. I'm sure. What happened next was intimacy painted in shadows and sighs, connection that went beyond physical into something that felt like fusing souls. Every touch was reverent, every kiss a claim. When he finally sank into her, moving with aching slowness, she felt herself shattering and remaking around him. Afterward, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his heartbeat steady under her ear. His fingers traced patterns on her bare shoulder, gentle, possessive, tender. I love you. He said it quietly, like admitting to something shameful. I know it's too soon. I know it's insane. But I've never been sure of anything. Ariana's breath caught. She should say it back. Should match his vulnerability with her own. But the words stuck, too big, too permanent. I'm not there yet, she whispered. But I could be. I'm falling, Raphael. I'm just not all the way down. His arms tightened around her. Then I'll catch you when you land. They stayed like that for hours, talking and touching and learning each other in ways that had nothing to do with the physical. He told her about growing up in Naples, about losing his parents young, about building his empire from nothing. She told him about her dreams for the gallery, her complicated relationship with her family, her fear of never being enough. You're everything, he said fiercely. Everything I didn't know I needed. Evening came soft and golden through the windows. Ariana should go home, should return to her real life. But wrapped in Raphael's arms, his world felt more real than anything she'd known before. Her phone buzzed. Maya texting. Where are you? You were supposed to meet me hours ago. Reality intruded like cold water. She'd forgotten. completely forgotten her best friend. I have to go, she said reluctantly. Maya's worried. Raphael's expression darkened slightly. Stay. I'll have someone bring her here if you want. Or arrange dinner for you both at any restaurant in the city. Raphael, I don't want you out there right now. Not with Moretti watching. You can't keep me locked up. I can keep you safe. His jaw set. Please, Ariana. Just for tonight. Let me have tonight. The please broke her. She texted Maya. I'm fine. I'll explain tomorrow. Promise. Maya's response was immediate. You better. And he better be worth this. He is, Ariana thought, looking at Raphael's relieved expression. God help me, he is. They ordered food, ate it in bed while he taught her Italian phrases that made her laugh. They talked until her voice went hoarse and his walls came down completely. And later, when she fell asleep wrapped in his arms, she dreamed of falling and flying and the terrifying beauty of trusting someone to catch her. Days blurred into a week. Ariana moved through her life surrounded by invisible protection, knowing Raphael's men watched from the shadows. She went to work, had coffee with Maya, tried to maintain normalcy. But every night, she ended up in Raphael's penthouse, in his bed, in his arms. Maya noticed the change immediately. You're glowing. They sat in their favorite cafe, different from the one where Moretti had appeared. And you have that look. What look? The I'm having amazing sex and falling in love look. Maya leaned forward. Spill. Who is he? Ariana hesitated. She'd kept Raphael's identity secret, knowing Maya would freak out. But the lie was getting harder to maintain. He's complicated. Complicated how? Married? Criminal? Maya laughed, then stopped when Ariana didn't join in. Oh my God. He's not actually a criminal, is he? Define criminal. Ariana. Maya's voice rose. What did you get yourself into? Something that makes me happier than I've ever been. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give right now. Ariana reached for her friend's hand. I need you to trust me. Trust that I know what I'm doing. Do you? Honestly? Ariana had no idea. But she knew she couldn't walk away. Knew that Raphael had become essential in a way that defied logic. I'm falling in love with him, she admitted quietly. Maybe already have. And it's terrifying and consuming and nothing like I expected. But it's real, Maya. The most real thing I've ever felt. Maya studied her for a long moment. He better treat you like a queen. Otherwise, I don't care how dangerous he is. I'll kill him myself. Ariana laughed, relief flooding through her. He treats me like I'm the only thing in the world that matters. Good. Maya squeezed her hand. Just promise me you'll be careful. And if you need out, if things get scary, you'll tell me. I promise. But even as she said it, Ariana knew she wouldn't leave. Couldn't leave. Raphael had woven himself into her DNA, and extracting him would mean losing pieces of herself. That night, she found Raphael in his office, bent over papers, tension radiating from every line of his body. He looked up when she entered, and the stress in his expression eased slightly. Hi. He pushed back from the desk. I didn't hear you come in. Your security let me up. She crossed to him, settled into his lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. What's wrong? Moretti's making moves. Testing my territories. He's trying to provoke a war. Because of me. Because he's an idiot with a death wish. Raphael's arms wrapped around her waist. This isn't your fault, Ariana. This has been building for years. You're just the excuse he's using. What are you going to do? End it. He said it simply, like discussing the weather. One way or another, I'm ending this threat. You'll be safe. The violence in his tone should scare her. Instead, she felt protected. Claimed. His. I told Maya about you today. He went still. What did you tell her? That you're complicated. That I'm falling in love with you. That you treat me like I matter. You do matter. He turned her in his lap, so they faced each other. You matter more than anything. More than my empire, my reputation, my life. You understand that, right? Raphael. I would burn it all down for you. His eyes blazed. Everything I've built. I'd walk away from it all if it meant keeping you. Don't say things like that. Why not? It's true. He cupped her face. You've ruined me, Ariana Greco. Completely. Utterly. And I've never been more grateful for anything. She kissed him to shut him up, to hide the tears threatening to fall. How had this happened? How had a misdirected photo led to this? To a love so intense it felt like drowning and breathing all at once. They made love on his desk, papers scattering, the city glittering below like witnesses to their passion. And afterward, tangled together on the floor, Raphael whispered promises into her skin. Promises of forever, of safety, of a love that would weather any storm. Ariana wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this could last, that his world wouldn't eventually destroy them both. But in the back of her mind, a warning whispered. Men like Raphael Santini didn't get happy endings. They got tragedy, violence, loss. She just had to hope their love would be the exception. 2 weeks later, the illusion shattered. Ariana was leaving the gallery late, lost in thoughts about the exhibition she was planning. Raphael's security was there, as always, Marco in a car down the street, another guard posing as a pedestrian nearby. She felt safe, protected. She didn't see the van until it was too late. Men grabbed her, hands over her mouth, chloroform burning her nostrils. She tried to fight, tried to scream, but the world was already fading to black. The last thing she heard was Marco shouting, gunfire echoing, chaos erupting. Then nothing. She woke in darkness, head pounding, wrists bound. Panic flooded through her, sharp and choking. Where was she? What had happened? Awake already? A familiar voice. Luca Moretti stepped into the dim light. Good. I was hoping you'd be conscious for this. Terror spiked. What do you want? To hurt Raphael the way he hurt me. Moretti smiled, and it was worse than any rage. He took everything from me. Now I'll take everything from him. Starting with you. He'll kill you for this. Probably. Moretti shrugged. But it'll be worth it to see him broken. To watch the great Raphael Santini brought to his knees by love. Such a weakness. Such a predictable, pathetic weakness. Ariana's mind raced, trying to think through the fear. He'll give you whatever you want. Money. Territory. Just let me go. I don't want his money. Moretti crouched in front of her, and she saw the madness in his eyes. I want him destroyed. And you, Bella, are the perfect weapon. Her phone buzzed in Moretti's pocket. Raphael calling, probably frantic. Moretti pulled it out, smiled, and answered. Raphael. So good to hear from you. Raphael's voice came through, deadly calm. If you've hurt her, she's fine. For now. Moretti's smile widened. But that could change. Depends on what you're willing to trade. Anything. Name it. Your empire. Everything. Sign it over to me, and I'll let her go. Silence. Ariana's heart stopped. He wouldn't. Couldn't. Everything he'd built, everything he'd fought for, he couldn't give it all up. Not for her. Not when they'd known each other mere weeks. Done. Raphael's voice didn't hesitate. Send me the papers. I'll sign. Just don't hurt her. Moretti's smile faded. He'd expected a fight negotiation. Not immediate capitulation. You're bluffing. I'm not. Raphael's voice was absolute. You want my empire? Take it. It means nothing without her. But if she's harmed, if she has a single bruise when I get her back, I will hunt you to the ends of the earth. No empire, no power, just me and my rage. And I promise you, Luca, I will make you beg for death. Moretti's expression darkened. You've gone soft. No. I've finally found something worth more than power. You should try it sometime. Oh wait, you had someone, didn't you? And you lost her because you chose your pride over her safety. I'm not making that mistake. The words hit Moretti like bullets. His face contorted with rage and pain. He hurled the phone against the wall, shattering it. Touching, he spat at Ariana. Romeo and Juliet. Let's see if your ending is just as tragic. Hours crawled by. Ariana sat in the dark, fear warring with something else. Awe at what Raphael had offered to sacrifice. Hope that he'd find her. Faith that his love was as absolute as he'd claimed. Above, she heard commotion. Shouting. Gunfire. Raphael had come. The door burst open. Moretti's men rushed in, weapons drawn, using her as a shield. More gunfire. Screaming. The scent of cordite and blood. Then silence. Raphael stepped into the room, and Ariana had never seen anything more beautiful or terrifying. He was covered in blood, not his own, she thought, his face a mask of controlled fury. Their eyes met across the chaos, and she saw him fracture and reassemble in the space of a heartbeat. Ariana. He crossed to her, hands shaking as he cut her bindings. Did they hurt you? Did they? I'm fine. She threw her arms around him, not caring about the blood. I'm fine. You came. Always. He buried his face in her hair. Always, Tesoro. I will always come for you. Moretti appeared in the doorway, bleeding, defeated. Raphael's men had him surrounded. But Raphael's attention stayed on Ariana, checking her over with desperate gentleness. Raphael. Moretti's voice was broken. End it. Just end it. Raphael looked up, and Ariana saw the killer in his eyes. Saw him weighing revenge against the woman in his arms. The choice was written clearly on his face. No. Raphael's voice was cold. You don't get the easy way out. You're going to live with what you've done. You're going to wake up every day knowing you lost. That I chose love over vengeance. That you're so irrelevant to me now that I won't even waste a bullet on you. He turned to his men. Turn him over to the feds. Let him rot in prison. It's more than he deserves. Then he lifted Ariana, carried her out of that hell, into the night air. Sirens wailed in the distance. His security surrounded them, a protective barrier against the world. In the car, Ariana finally let herself shake. Raphael held her, whispering Italian endearments, promising safety, promising forever. She believed every word. You were really going to give it all up, she said softly. Everything you built. In a heartbeat. He kissed her forehead. You're my empire now, Ariana. You're everything that matters. I love you. The words came easily, naturally absolute. I love you so much it terrifies me. His arms tightened. Say it again. I love you, Raphael Santini. I'm all the way fallen. Completely yours. He kissed her then, deep and desperate and claiming. And in that kiss was every promise, every vow, every future they'd build together. 3 months later, Ariana stood in a private garden wearing a simple white dress that made her feel like art. Raphael waited at the altar in a dark suit, his eyes never leaving her as she walked toward him. The ceremony was small. Just Maya, his most trusted men, her parents who'd finally accepted that their daughter had chosen an unconventional path. The priest spoke words about love and commitment, but Ariana barely heard them. All she could see was Raphael, looking at her like she was his salvation. I, Raphael Santini, take you, Ariana Greco, to be my wife. My partner. My everything. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and love you with every breath in my body. You are my light in the darkness, and I am forever yours. Her vows were simpler. I choose you. Today and every day. All of you. Forever. When they kissed, the world felt right in a way it never had before. The reception was held in Raphael's, their penthouse. He'd officially stepped back from the darker aspects of his business, going fully legitimate. It had cost him influence, respect from some quarters. But every time he looked at Ariana, she saw zero regret. Happy, he murmured, pulling her close as they swayed to music. Deliriously, she rested her head on his chest. You. I married the love of my life. I'm invincible. She laughed, tipping her head back to look at him. You're ridiculous. I'm yours. He kissed her softly. Same thing. Later, alone in their bedroom, he pressed his hand to her still flat stomach and smiled with wonder. You're sure? Positive. She covered his hand with hers. I wanted to tell you earlier, but you wanted to wait until we were married. So I'd know you didn't marry me because of this. How do you always know what I'm thinking? Because I study you like scripture. He knelt, pressing his lips to her stomach with reverent gentleness. Hello, little one. I'm your papa. And I promise I will spend every day of my life making sure you and your mama are safe. Loved. Cherished. Tears streamed down Ariana's face. We're going to be parents. You're going to be an incredible mother. He stood, pulling her close. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I deserve both of you. You already do. She kissed him deeply. You proved it the moment you chose me over everything else. It wasn't a choice, Tesoro. It was an inevitability. His hand cupped her face. From the moment you sent that photo, my fate was sealed. You just didn't know it yet. She laughed through her tears. Best accident I ever made. Best thing that ever happened to me. That night, wrapped in each other's arms, Ariana thought about how far they'd come. From a misdirected photo to this. Marriage, pregnancy, a love that had survived danger and darkness and doubt. It shouldn't have worked. By all logic, they should have been a disaster. But love, she'd learned, didn't follow logic. It followed the heart. And her heart had chosen Raphael Santini completely. In the years that followed, they built a life that defied expectations. Raphael transformed his empire into something legitimate and profitable, using his influence for good. Ariana opened her own gallery, showcasing artists who needed a champion. They had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, who grew up knowing both fierce protection and unconditional love. And every anniversary, Raphael would pull Ariana close and whisper, "Thank you for the accident that changed my life." She'd smile and reply, "Thank you for proving that even the darkest souls deserve love." Because that's what they'd done. They'd taken a mistake and transformed it into forever. Taken fear and turned it into faith. Taken two broken people and made them whole through the simple act of choosing each other. Again and again and again. Until the end of time.